the Comosono Silence hotel practice mute for violin and viola. In this video, I'm going to compare and contrast with real-life demonstrations of what it sounds like using a practice mute like this, and then I have two different versions of orchestral mutes, which of course are not really for practicing, they're just for color. We've all been there as violinists when we're trying to practice at home, but on the other side of that wall, we have a neighbor. It can still feel uncomfortable to play out loud in the comfort of our own home, let alone if you're in a hotel traveling between performances. But of course we have products like practice mutes that allow us to dampen the sound and not disturb people as much while still allowing us to have a good practice session. The thing is that some of these practice mutes dampen the sound so much that you actually can't hear your real sound enough to have a good practice session. Let's say intonation, sound quality. But if you just want to noodle around and practice notes and just get some notes in your head and you're learning a new piece of music, maybe it's fine. So you'll have rubber practice mutes like this, and then you'll also have these really scary looking ones like this, which are metallic and super heavy, but they really dampen the sound to within an inch of its life. Enter the Comosono Silence into the practice mute market. This is a €149 practice mute. It might be beautiful, but is it worth it? I mean, it could definitely be used as a paperweight and it's got a nice weight to it. In this video, we're going to go deep. First, I'm going to explain the under the string engineering of how this practice mute works on the bridge. And then I'm going to do a 5-way audio comparison between no mute, two different types of orchestral mutes, a general rubber practice mute, and the Comosono Silence, so that we can really contrast and compare. Unlike other practice mutes that rely on gravity, the Comosono Silence is a screw clamp with a ball joint. This means there's an even distribution of pressure on the bridge, and you avoid getting any of those horrible clamp marks that the metal practice mute that I won't even own can sometimes leave on your bridge. Notice the placement of this mute. It clamps from the side of the bridge underneath the strings. The top of the bridge is completely clear for bowing. It also means that for the first time ever with practice mutes, you can play sul ponticello on the bridge or really close to the bridge. This is something that other practice mutes don't allow simply because of their on the bridge design. So essentially, you're able to do what you want with your bow without the practice mute getting in your way. Showing you how beautiful this mute is. You've got the jaws where one side is straight and the other side is curved, which reflects the natural shape of the bridge. You always have the ball joint end of the mute on the G string side of the instrument. And then you just carefully slide on to the mute from the side, choosing how low or how high you want to place the mute. You've got all of these options. And then you just hold the mute in place and screw firmly onto the bridge, not too tight, and then it's ready to play. Similarly, to take the mute off the bridge, you unscrew and then slide away. First up, no mute. Now for some grooving without the mute. Sometimes I do that at home. Next up is one of these. This is one of those standard orchestral mutes, so when in your music it says consordino or consord, you'll very usually put one of these on your instrument. I think they're known as the taut shape, the taut model. Let's have a go. And now for the groove. Sounds pretty good actually, it's very muted. And next up, it's one of these. This is also a standard orchestral mute. It's just a different shape, which I believe doesn't change anything. It's just a different model, a different shape. This was sent to me by Daddario. It is the Spectre mute. It's in the shape of an eraser. Okay, so that really didn't sound very muted. I wonder whether, I mean, does it make a difference? Okay, yes it does. Now with the groove. I hope you're grooving. Okay, yeah, it sounds muted. Enter the practice mute. Now for the start of the real test. So this is one of the standard rubber practice mutes that you can get. Ultra USA is what it says on the top. And I like to say they look like little spiders. Don't ask me why, because spiders have 8 legs and this has 5. But you know what I mean. It's kind of spider-like. Now, unfortunately, I don't have one of the metal versions of these, but just know you basically can't. Just know that you basically can't hear anything when you're using the metal version of this mute. So here's the rubber one. It's really inexpensive. It's super light and it just sits in my case all the time, or at least it did until I got the Comosono. So we're going to just slot this on. Done. Pick up the bow and let's test it. Don't ask me what I'm doing with my bowing. I'm just doing random amounts of notes in my bow. Anyway, but you're getting the gist. I'm doing a 2-octave G major scale. There you go, that was better. Right, so here we go. This is the Comosono Silence. You can adjust the positioning on the bridge for different levels of muting. This is what I'm calling position 1, as high up the bridge as possible, which should technically mute it the most. It's so quiet. And now the groove with the Comosono still at the highest point of the bridge, which is technically the quietest the mute would sound. What I'm getting here, at least in the room, is that when the Comosono is in the higher position on the bridge, so technically the quietest sound you're going to get from the instrument, it's taking away the most overtones compared to when you have the Comosono lower down on the bridge, which we're going to test next. As you can see, I've actually positioned it really low on the bridge, so technically you could probably have it in a middle ground position between where I've got it now and the previous position higher up the bridge. This should be much more resonant and allow for much more overtones and sound while still muting. Now for the groove. Now let's just test the Comosono against the rubber practice mute, and I'm just going to do a big triumphant chord and see what that sounds like. First off, the Comosono with the positioning higher up the bridge, which means more dampening, so the quietest sound from the instrument. Let's go. Pretty good. I would feel so nervous to play that loudly, with that much weight into the string, if I were doing this without the mute. My poor neighbors. Now I'm going to change the position from higher on the bridge to lower down on the bridge to allow the instrument to have more resonance and more overtones, so technically louder. And now with no mute entirely, which I genuinely feel a bit nervous about because I have neighbors on the other side of this wall, let alone neighbors, you know, down the corridor and things. And I genuinely was playing really loudly with the Comosono Silence on. But it was just so good at muting that it didn't feel like a big deal. Whew, the overtones on that. So what's the difference between this and the other practice mutes? Is it really worth it? The main thing this mute gives you is freedom. Freedom to express yourself while you're practicing from the nature of the design of the mute itself. Freedom to practice whenever you like without fear of disturbing your family, your neighbors, or your flatmates. The main thing about this for me that means it might be worth it if you're willing to spend that amount of money is that you are not just quietening your violin, you're still able to practice intonation, you're still able to practice different bow techniques and pretty much play as if you would be without the mute, but the resonance or the vibrations of what makes a violin so loud and disturbing to others are minimized. And even better, as I showed you, you can actually customize this depending on where you place the mute on the bridge. The final verdict. This is not a cheap piece of kit. It's beautiful, it's well made, it really does a great job, but you guys will have to decide for yourself whether it's worth the price. At this time of recording, 149 euros. For me, it's an investment in my freedom and my sanity to be able to practice without constantly worrying what people are thinking and if they're annoyed by my practicing. Because practicing is vulnerable enough as it is. Personally, I'd say if you're a professional touring musician and you're staying in hotels a lot of the time, or you live in a city and you've got neighbors either side of your walls, or you have flatmates, roommates, family, all of the above, then I would say it's worth it for the peace of mind. And you could think, how much do you get paid for a gig if you're a professional musician? It's an investment and a tax write-off. That being said, you guys have to make your own mind up. I have been going for years without this and was doing just fine. I'm so grateful to Comosono for sending me this when the product was vaguely new and I was one of the first people to test it out, and I really genuinely enjoy it and do use it because I live in a flat with neighbors right behind this wall. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, I trust that you'll give this video a like and subscribe to my channel for more content like this, where I will be reviewing and demonstrating more products that I love to use, and also the chopping and rhythmic groove playing that I love to do as well. So with that in mind, I'll see you in the next one.